Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. In this video, we're looking at the MLB slate for Friday, May 21st. We have a monster of a baseball slate tonight, 15 games. Let's go ahead and get right into it. As always, appreciate if you guys hit the like button, subscribe if you have not already, and let's get started. Looking at the totals today and the projected lineups, a couple of teams stick out today. We have a Coors game, which will always get a lot of ownership, no matter the slate size. Today, looking at some of the top pitching options or some of the top stacks that look appealing, say the Nationals are definitely one of the better stacks today. They are facing off against Jorge Lopez. Lopez has struggled this year like he has over the past few years. He's been giving up a good amount of power, and he gives up a lot of runs and a lot of hits. He's not the best strikeout pitcher either. Looking at his stats here, he's given up already 8 home runs in just 34 innings. He has about a strikeout per inning during that stretch, but he also gives up a good amount of hits and walks. So definitely looking at the Nationals stack, especially at home, in that decent ballpark to hit in. And then the Coors, the Rockies especially, are a pretty good stack today. They are facing off against a very young pitcher, Shet Frankoff, against Marquez. The wind is also blowing out in Coors, and the pricing on these guys are just way too cheap. You can get a leadoff hitter in Coors for $4,000. You can get a first base option with a lot of power, and CJ Cron at just $3,800. You can also go with the bottom of the order and go with some cheap guys. You have Charlie Blackman, Story, two guys that always hit well in Coors, always with two guys also with a lot of power. So Rockies, Nationals, right now the top two stacks that I'm looking at, and then I would say that the Angels look somewhat appealing just because of Ohtani's a monster. Without Trout, that lineup is definitely not as fun to stack, but you can still go with a solid 2 through 5 and get a lot of pop with Ohtani, Rendon, Walsh, and Upton. And then I'm not really looking at the Padres too much today. They have a decent total, but I'd rather look to like the Royals just because there's so many cheap hitters in this lineup. They all are pretty solid hitters except for some of the bottom half of the order. But I'm looking at like the top 5 all look solid, especially like Merrifield gives you a lot of speed. Even Benintendi's pretty affordable, $3,600 for him. Definitely like the Royals as a third stack, and that's kind of it. We don't know who's pitching for the Blue Jays. That would definitely impact whether we can go with the Rays stack or not. It's probably not going to be a good pitcher, which is why they have a 5-run total. But we'll see. They are somewhat appealing, especially a Rosarena, G-Man Choi, and possibly Margot at just $3,400. And then the Braves always appealing against the lefty, but Anderson's actually somewhat decent. So looking at the pitching options today, you have a lot of options today. You can go all the way up for a Trevor Bauer, go up for a Glasnow, you can go up for a Ian Anderson. I think you can also go affordable here with like a Chris Paddock. He's $8,600 facing off against this strikeout heavy lineup of the Mariners. They already got no hit twice this season. They have some very good young hitters in this lineup, but they strike out a lot. There's not a lot of good hitters in this lineup that make a lot of contact regularly. Like overall, their lineup is batting under 200. So definitely like Paddock going up against the Mariners at home. And then the second pitcher, I think you can go with affordable pitcher and go with like a Mike Minor, who's $7,500. You can maybe look to a Hendricks again, but tougher matchup for him this time against the Cardinals. And then for value, there's nobody really except if you wanted to maybe take a shot on a Marquez in tournaments. But I like Minor here. He's pretty nicely priced, $7,500. He gives you a good amount of upside just because he's good with the strikeouts. Overall, on the season, he has about a strikeout per inning. He's also pitched well against this Tigers team like a lot of people have this year. Put up 27 points against them earlier this year, coming off one of his better starts of the season against the Chicago White Sox, who are one of the best teams in baseball against lefties. So I think he can build off of that at home against the Tigers. So for my pitchers, going to be picking on two pretty bad offenses in the Mariners and the Tigers. For the bats, basically looking at the Rockies as my favorite stack, and then I think you can mix in some Nats. Then you can mix in some of the other teams I mentioned earlier. But first base, it's kind of tough to avoid CJ Cron. Just way too cheap at $3,800. He's been off to a good start for the Rockies. They got him at cheap in the offseason. Overall, he's batting 300 with 5 home runs. If you look at his splits in Coors, 296. 4 of his 5 home runs have come in Coors. Just way too cheap. A guy that's been hitting the ball pretty well recently, batting 367 in his past 10 days. Definitely one of my favorite first base options. Another guy that I really like at shortstop is Trey Turner. He is expensive at 6,000, but that's why if you go cheap with your two pitchers with Paddock and Minor, allows you to pay up for a bit here. And Turner's been making his case this year, been their best hitter for the Nats, way better than so far, way better than Soto. Has been rocking a very nice hit streak, runs back to like 9 or 10 games for him. On the season, he already has 10 home runs, also has 8 stolen bases, so you get the perfect power and speed combination from him. He doesn't strike out too often, and it's a good spot for him batting leadoff. Maybe he can get 5 at-bats today if this stack does go off like they do have a chance to. So love the upside Trey Turner brings, like a home run and a stolen base for him if that happens. Looks very, very good at 6,000. In the outfield, we can go with Charlie Blackman, who's still underpriced for hitting in cores. He's always been a monster in cores if you look at his career numbers. He's started off the season really slow. He's starting to hit a lot better recently. At home still, he's been struggling at just 211, but he does have 2 home runs in cores. And I just think he'll do pretty solid today. They have a very high total. Wind's blowing out. A lefty against a righty here. Blackman should have the ability to do some damage, and hopefully he's able to make the most of it. He's been pretty disappointing this year, coming off of his last few years. I think he still has a few good years left in him. So we definitely feel confident taking a shot on Blackman at $4,800, especially with a couple of the higher priced guys out. Acuna's in play, Soto's in play, but you can save $1,300 and go to Blackman in cores. Rather do that. And then another Nationals bat that I like is Kyle Schwarber. Pretty affordable. It gives you the power that you need or that you're looking for out of a guy like Schwarber. $4,400, nicely priced, having a good season. Already has 7 home runs. Never going to hit for a high average. You're looking for home runs out of him. And in this one, against Jorge Lopez, who gives up a lot of home runs, gives up a lot of fly balls, and gives up a lot of hard contact, I think Schwarber is like one of the perfect guys to look to in the Nationals lineup, besides Trey Turner and Juan Soto. He's my third favorite. But based on price tag, you could lean to Schwarber over Soto in the outfield. So that's pretty much it for DraftKings. Let's talk about FanDuel. On FanDuel here, pitching wise, you can go all the way up for a Trevor Bauer. But I think a lot of people will not do today. I think people are looking to go a bit cheaper with like a Ian Anderson. You have an Aaronola here. You can even go down to a very, very cheap Chris Paddock, who's only $6,300 for some reason. He's not been great, but he's just really, really cheap in a great spot against Seattle. A guy that can get you some strikeouts. I'd rather take a shot on Paddock and pay up for some bats today. Going back to catcher slash first base, G-Man Choi is the most expensive guy. That is crazy. He's been awesome recently, but I would not play him over guys like Freddie Freeman, even though it's lefty-lefty over Vlad Guerrero. And I still like CJ Cron today. He's $3,200, a little bit more, or $3,300, a little bit much more of a decision point you have to make on FanDuel, but I still love him, and I love the Rockies stack that he's got to be in your piece because he has a chance to hit 2 home runs tonight. Shortstop, go back to Trey Turner, who's $4,200. It looks like the Padres get Tatis back. He's been good this year, obviously. 10 home runs already, and that has been in very limited time. He's been amazing recently. On his first game back, he was great against the Rockies. If he's back tonight, he looks great. I think I still like Trey Turner a little bit more, especially after Tatis has been on fire the last couple of games. People might go to him instead. But I think Turner, $4,200 against Jorge Lopez, looks great. You can even play Tatis in the utility spot if you wanted to. And then in the outfield, it's basically going back to Blackman, who's cheap, $3,800, really, really cheap compared to some of the other guys that are similarly priced to him, like Soto. $4,200, you can easily get up to him as well if you go with a Paddock. So I'd rather go with Soto on FanDuel than Schwarber, just because I will be able to make up the difference, just because Paddock is only $6,300. You can play both of them if you wanted to, but might as well get the better overall hitter in Juan Soto. And that's basically it for this one. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Best of luck tonight, and I'll see you all next time.